I'm 67 years old, and the person who nearly destroyed me was the one I trusted most, myself. My name is Thomas Brennan. I spent 32 years as a mechanical engineer in Cleveland, Ohio. I designed systems for manufacturing plants, conveyor belts, hydraulic presses, safety mechanisms. I was good with numbers. I understood tolerances, margins of error, stress tests. I thought I understood risk. I was wrong. Today, I live in a one-bedroom apartment in Akron, 40 minutes from where I raised my kids. The carpet smells like someone else's cooking. The radiator clanks all night when it gets cold. On my kitchen counter sits a blue folder, the same folder I've opened every morning for the past 4 years. Inside, bank statements, Medicare notices, a printed article from 2019 about the 4% rule, and a handwritten list of numbers that no longer add up. That folder is my confession booth. I thought retirement would be simple. I'd saved, I'd planned, I'd followed the rule everyone swore by. I thought I'd spend my 60s traveling with Linda, my wife of 40 years, maybe rent a cabin in Michigan every summer, take the grandkids to Cedar Point, watch sunsets without checking my phone, die comfortable, surrounded by family, leaving something behind. Instead, I spend my days calculating whether I can afford both blood pressure medication and decent coffee. I clip coupons I used to throw away. I buy the store brand cereal. I haven't taken my grandkids anywhere in 2 years. I'm not dying comfortable. I'm dying broke, and I'm dying angry. And the worst part? I did everything they told me to do. The 4% rule sounded like gospel. I first heard about it in 2016, 3 years before I retired. A co-worker, Mike, mentioned it over lunch in the break room at the plant. 4%, he said, chewing his roast beef sandwich. That's the magic number. You pull 4% of your retirement savings every year, adjusted for inflation. Studies say it lasts 30 years, maybe longer. My financial advisor swears by it. I went home that night and researched. Linda was watching some cooking show in the living room. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and a notepad. The rule came from a 1994 study, something called the Trinity Study. 3 professors analyzed historical stock and bond returns going back to 1926. They concluded that withdrawing 4% annually from a balanced portfolio, half stocks, half bonds, had a 95% success rate over 30 years. 95%. I'm an engineer. I spent 3 decades building systems that couldn't fail. I know how to read data. Those odds felt safe, better than safe, proven. Battle-tested across decades of market history, through recessions and recoveries, through oil shocks and tech bubbles. I printed the study, I highlighted key passages, I made spreadsheets. By the time I retired in June 2019, I had $680,000 in my 401k. Linda and I also had Social Security, about $3,200 combined per month. Our house was paid off, no debt, no car payments. The mortgage had been dead for 6 years. The math was clean, beautiful even. 4% of $680,000 is $27,200 a year. Add Social Security, $38,400 total. Our annual expenses were around $42,000, but I figured we'd tighten up a little, cut the cable, cook more, drive less. Maybe drop the gym membership I barely used anyway. The plan felt bulletproof. I showed Linda the numbers one night. We were sitting at the kitchen table, the same table where I'm sitting now, 4 years later in a different house, in a different life. This works, I said, tapping the spreadsheet. We're covered, 30 years minimum. We'll be in our 90s. She smiled, but I saw the worry in her eyes. Linda's always been the cautious one. What if something goes wrong? She asked. The study accounts for recessions, I said. Bad years, good years, it's all averaged in. We just stick to the plan, 4% every year, no matter what. I believed it. God, I believed it so completely. I remember the retirement party. It was on a Friday afternoon in June. The maintenance guys hung a banner in the break room. Happy retirement, Tom. My boss, Jim, gave a speech about my precision and reliability. how I never missed a deadline, how my designs never failed inspections. They gave me a gold-plated wrench mounted on a plaque, engraved Thomas Brennan, 32 years of excellence. Linda cried a little. My daughter Emily was there with the kids. My son David drove up from Columbus. I felt proud, free, like I'd earned something. That night, Linda and I sat on our back porch. The sun was setting orange over the rooftops. I had a beer. She had a glass of wine. The cicadas were screaming in the trees. "Are you sure we have enough?" she asked again. I put my hand on hers. "I did the math," I said. "We're fine. Better than fine. We're free." I meant it. The first year went exactly as planned. We withdrew $27,200 from the 401k in monthly chunks, about $2,267 a month. Combined with Social Security, we had roughly $5,467 coming in. Our expenses were manageable: $1,200 for property taxes and insurance, $800 for utilities and phone, $600 for groceries, $300 for gas, another $400 for miscellaneous. We traveled a little, visited Linda's sister in Pennsylvania, went to a couple Indians games. I took the grandkids to the zoo. We bought Christmas gifts without checking the price tags first. It felt normal, easy. I checked my 401k balance every few weeks. The market was up in 2019. By the end of the year, despite withdrawing $27,200, I still had around $665,000. The investments had grown enough to offset the withdrawals. See, I thought, the plan works. Linda seemed happier, less worried. We talked about taking a trip to Yellowstone the next summer, maybe renting an RV. She bought a book about national parks and left it on the coffee table. In January 2020, I withdrew the first payment of the new year, $2,267. The balance dipped to $663,000. Still fine. In February, I withdrew another $2,267, and then the world caught fire. I don't need to explain the pandemic to anyone who lived through it. The lockdowns, the fear, the toilet paper shortages, the masks. What I need to explain is what it did to people like me. The stock market dropped 34% in 5 weeks. 34%. I watched my 401k balance fall from $665,000 to $440,000 in real time. I watched it happen on my laptop, sitting at the kitchen table, refreshing my Fidelity account every morning like a man checking a wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. The numbers bled. $665,000, $620,000, $580,000, $520,000, $470,000, $440,000. I stopped sleeping. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and check my phone. The red numbers glowed in the dark. Linda asked what we should do. "Nothing," I said. "The rule accounts for downturns. We stay the course. We keep withdrawing 4%. That's what the studies say. Don't panic. Don't sell. Ride it out." That's what every article said, every expert, every forum post I read at 2 a.m. while Linda slept. "The market always recovers," they said. "Panic selling locks in losses," they said. "Stick to the plan," they said. So I did. In March 2020, I withdrew $2,267. The balance, $438,000. In April, another $2,267. Balance, $435,000. May, $2,267. Balance, $433,000. June, July, August. Every month I pulled money from a shrinking account while the market screamed and thrashed like a dying animal. By August, the market had recovered some. The talking heads on CNBC said the worst was over. My balance climbed back to $490,000. I felt a flicker of relief. See, it's bouncing back. But here's the thing nobody told me. Here's the thing that wasn't in the Trinity study or the articles or the cheerful retirement books with sailboats on the cover. It didn't matter that the market recovered. The damage was already done. There's a term I didn't know back then. A term that should be plastered on every retirement calculator, every 4% rule article, every financial advisor's wall. Sequence of returns risk. It sounds technical, boring. The kind of phrase you skim over because your eyes glaze over and you think, "I'll look that up later." Don't skip it. This is the monster that eats retirees alive. Here's what it means in plain English. When you lose money, matters more than if you lose money. If the market crashes when you're 40 and still working, it doesn't matter. You're not selling anything, you're still buying. In fact, you're buying stocks on sale. Your 401k contributions are buying more shares at cheaper prices. When the market recovers, you're ahead. But if the market crashes the day after you retire, the day you start pulling money out, you're screwed. Because now you're not buying, you're selling, and you're selling at the worst possible time. Let me show you exactly what happened to me, because this is where the 4% rule broke. Before the crash, I had about $665,000. Let's say that was roughly 22,000 shares of my target date index fund at an average price of $30 per share. During the crash in March 2020, the share price dropped to $20, but I still needed to pull out $2,267 that month to cover our expenses. That was the plan, 4% no matter what. So instead of selling 75 shares at $30 each, which would have given me $2,250, I had to sell 113 shares at $20 each to get the same $2,267. Do you see the problem? When the market recovered in the fall and the share price climbed back to $30, I didn't have 22,000 shares anymore. I had 21,187 shares. And the next month, 21,674. Then 21,661. I was cannibalizing my future, selling pieces of the recovery before the recovery could help me. If I had stopped withdrawing during the crash, if I'd had 2 years of cash sitting in a savings account so I didn't have to touch the 401k, those 22,000 shares would have ridden the recovery back up. But I didn't have that cash buffer. I didn't know I needed one. Nobody told me. The 4% rule assumes you'll face bad years, but it assumes they're random, scattered across 30 years like rain showers, some years good, some years bad, but spread out enough that it averages out. It does not account for bad years happening right at the start, when you're most vulnerable, when every dollar you pull out costs you exponentially in future growth. That sequence of returns risk. And by the end of 2020, even though the market had mostly recovered, my balance was $510,000. I'd lost $155,000 in 18 months. Not because I panicked, not because I sold everything, not because I made stupid decisions, because I followed the plan. By 2021, I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know how to fix it. The market was roaring. The S&P 500 was hitting all-time highs. My fund was up 18% for the year, but my balance barely moved because I was still withdrawing and inflation was starting to creep up. Linda got sick that fall. Nothing catastrophic, a kidney infection that wouldn't go away. 3 rounds of antibiotics, 2 ER visits because her fever spiked at midnight, follow-up appointments with a urologist. Medicare covered most of it, but not all of it. Co-pays $40 per visit, times 6 visits, $240. Prescriptions $90 for the antibiotic that actually worked. ER visit co-pays $150 each, times 2, $300. Specialist, another $60. Lab work, $80. Total out-of-pocket, $770. Then the urologist wanted a follow-up CT scan. Insurance covered 80%. We paid $320. In 3 months, we spent $1,090 on medical bills that weren't in the budget. I pulled extra money from the 401k. Then, in December, our furnace died. It was 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. The temperature outside was 19 degrees. The house dropped to 58 degrees overnight. We piled blankets on the bed and slept in sweatshirts. The repair guy came the next morning. He was in the basement for 20 minutes. "It's the heat exchanger," he said. "Cracked. That's a safety hazard. Carbon monoxide. I have to shut it down." "How much to fix it?" I asked. $1,400 for the part and labor, but honestly this furnace is 23 years old. I'd replace it. "How much is that?" $6,500 for a mid-tier unit installed. We didn't have $6,500. We paid the $1,400 to fix it. It died again in February. This time, the motor, another $900. By March, the repair guy leveled with me. "Tom, you're throwing good money after bad. This thing is going to nickel and dime you to death. Replace it." I sold stocks from the 401k and bought the new furnace, $6,500. My balance in April 2022, $468,000. Then inflation really hit. Gas went from $2.80 a gallon to $4.50. Groceries doubled. Linda's prescription for thyroid medication went from $80 a month to $37 because the manufacturer stopped making the generic version. Our property taxes went up. The insurance on the house went up. I was withdrawing $2,600 a month now, $333 more than the original plan, just to keep pace. Every month, I opened the blue folder. I recalculated. Every month, the numbers got worse. By January 2023, my 401k balance was $390,000. I sat at the kitchen table one night. Linda was asleep. The house was silent except for the hum of the new furnace and the ticking of the clock on the wall. I opened my laptop. I made a new spreadsheet. Current balance, $390,000. Monthly withdrawal, $20,600. Annual withdrawal, $31,200. How many years left? I stared at the number. 12.5 years. I'd be 79 when the money ran out. Linda would be 76, and that assumed nothing else went wrong. No more medical emergencies, no more broken appliances, no more inflation. I felt something I hadn't felt since I was a kid, sitting in the principal's office after failing a math test. Pure, cold, suffocating fear. I started looking for part-time work in February 2023. At 66 years old, with a mechanical engineering degree from 1979 and 32 years at the same company, I applied to Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, Target. I filled out online applications that asked if I was comfortable working in a fast-paced environment and if I had strong communication skills. I have a bachelor's degree in engineering. I managed teams. I presented at industry conferences. But the online forms didn't care. I got 2 interviews. The first was at Lowe's. The manager was a woman in her 40s named Stephanie. She asked if I had retail experience. "No," I said, "but I'm reliable, I'm good with people, and I need the work." She smiled politely. "We'll be in touch." They weren't. The second interview was at Home Depot. The hiring manager was a kid who looked about 30, clean-shaven, polo shirt, confident. He asked me if I was comfortable with technology. I designed automated hydraulic systems controlled by programmable logic controllers. I used CAD software before this kid was born. "Yes," I said, "very comfortable." He nodded, typing notes on his iPad. "We're looking for someone who can commit long-term," he said. "This isn't just seasonal." "I can commit," I said. He hired someone else. I found out later, through a friend who works there, that they hired a 22-year-old college dropout. Nothing against the kid. I'm sure he's fine. But I couldn't even get a call back. Linda suggested we sell the house. I hated the idea. We'd lived there for 28 years. I built the deck myself. I painted every room. I installed the ceiling fan in the master bedroom. Our kids grew up there. The kitchen door frame still had the pencil marks where we measured Emily and David's heights every birthday, but the math didn't lie. We were hemorrhaging money. The property taxes alone were $4,200 a year. Insurance, $1,800. Maintenance and repairs, easily another $2,000 a year. Even paid off, the house was costing us $8,000 a year just to own. And it was too big. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a basement full of boxes we hadn't opened in a decade. We put it on the market in May 2023. It sold in 3 weeks for $215,000. After the realtor's commission and closing costs, we netted $198,000. I cried the day we moved out. I stood in the empty living room and I cried like a child. Linda held my hand. She didn't say anything. There was nothing to say. We moved into the one-bedroom apartment in Akron. $950 a month, heat included, carpet that smells like curry and cigarettes, a radiator that clanks, a parking lot view. I took the $198,000 from the house sale and put it in a high-yield savings account earning about 4.8%. That generates roughly $9,500 a year, about $790 a month. Combined with Social Security, $3,200, and a reduced 401k withdrawal, $1,200, we now have about $5,190 coming in each month. Our expenses in the apartment, roughly $3,800. We're surviving, barely. But I wake up every day in a place that doesn't feel like home, and I think about the door frame with the pencil marks. I think about the deck where we used to drink coffee on Sunday mornings. I think about the life I was supposed to have, and I wonder how I got it so wrong. I've spent the last year reading, learning, trying to understand what happened. Here's what I'd tell my younger self, or anyone reading this who still has time, if I could go back. It assumes you retire into an average market, average inflation, average returns, average life. But life isn't average. If you retire into a crash, like I did, the rule breaks. I didn't know that. I thought 4% was safe no matter what. Bulletproof, proven. It's not. The first 5 years of retirement are the most dangerous. If the market tanks early and you keep pulling money out, you're selling at the bottom. You're locking in losses. And when the market recovers, you have fewer shares left to ride it back up. I should have had a cushion, 2 or 3 years of living expenses in cash, so I didn't have to sell shares during the crash. Nobody told me that. The 4% rule articles don't mention it. The retirement calculators don't account for it. But it's the difference between a comfortable retirement and what I'm living now. The 4% rule adjusts for inflation, but it assumes moderate inflation, around 2 to 3% per year, the historical average. We've had years over 8%. Gas, groceries, insurance, prescriptions, everything doubled. My withdrawal rate, adjusted for real-world inflation, became 5%, then 6%. The math couldn't hold. Even with Medicare, Linda and I spend about $650 a month on premiums, co-pays, and prescriptions. That's $7,800 a year. I budgeted $4,000. I was off by nearly double, and we're relatively healthy. If one of us gets seriously sick, cancer, heart disease, dementia, those costs will explode. Medicare doesn't cover everything. It doesn't cover long-term care. It doesn't cover most dental. It doesn't cover hearing aids. The gaps are enormous. I'm an engineer. I spent my career building systems, analyzing tolerances, eliminating failure points. I thought I could do the same with retirement. I thought precision and planning were enough. But retirement isn't a machine, it's chaos wrapped in probabilities, and sometimes, no matter how well you plan, you just get unlucky. The market crashes the year you retire. Your spouse gets sick, your furnace dies, inflation spikes, you can't control any of it. All you can do is build bigger margins, more cash, lower withdrawal rates, flexibility. I didn't do that, and now I'm paying for it. There's a guy in my building named Frank. He's 71. Retired postal worker. We run into each other in the hallway sometimes. He's always friendly, always smiling. One day last month, I saw him loading groceries into his car. Nice car. Newer Honda. Clean. "How you doing, Tom?" he asked. "Getting by," I said. He nodded. "Tough times for a lot of us." We stood there for a second. Then I asked, "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. How are you managing? I mean, are you okay money-wise?" He looked at me for a second like he was deciding whether to answer. "Honestly," he said, "I'm fine. Not rich, but fine." "How?" He shrugged. "I kept it simple. Social Security, a small pension from the post office, and I saved about $300,000 in a 401k, but I never touched the 401k. "What do you mean?" "I live off the Social Security and pension, about $3,400 a month. That covers rent, food, everything. The 401k just sits there." It's my emergency fund, medical stuff, if the car dies, whatever. I stared at him. You don't withdraw anything, I asked. Not unless I have to, and I haven't had to yet. He smiled, got in his car and drove away. I stood there in the parking lot, holding my one bag of groceries, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Envy. Frank didn't follow the 4% rule. He didn't follow any rule. He just lived below his means and kept a cushion. And he's fine. I followed the plan. I did the math. I trusted the experts. And I'm not. If you're reading this, if you're still working, still planning, still years away from retirement, listen to me. I'm not writing this for pity. I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm writing this because I was the guy who did everything right. I saved for 32 years. I maxed out my 401k contributions. I didn't touch the money. I invested in diversified index funds. I followed the 4% rule. And I still ended up here, in a rented apartment that smells like someone else's life, rationing coffee, terrified of the mailbox because it might bring another bill I can't pay. Don't trust a single number. Don't trust a single rule. The 4% rule isn't a promise. It's a starting point. But starting points don't account for pandemics, inflation, spikes, medical emergencies, sequence of returns, risk, bad timing, life. Here's what you do instead. 2 years minimum. 3 is better. Keep it in a high-yield savings account or a money market fund. When the market crashes, and it will crash, you're not forced to sell. You live off the cash while your investments recover. This one thing would have saved me. Give yourself margin. The difference between 3% and 4% on a $500,000 portfolio is $5,000 a year. But that margin might mean the difference between running out at 78 or at 88. It might mean the difference between keeping your house or selling it. It might mean dignity. Don't just plug numbers into a calculator and assume it'll work. Assume the market crashes the day you retire. Assume inflation stays high for 5 years. Assume healthcare costs double. Assume the furnace dies and your spouse gets sick and your property taxes go up. If your plan survives that, it might actually work. If it doesn't, you need more money or you need to retire later. I know that's not what you want to hear, but it's the truth. I retired in June 2019, near an all-time market high. 6 months later, it collapsed. If the market feels frothy, if it's been climbing for years, if everyone's talking about their gains, if you feel like you're on top of the world, wait. Work 1 more year. Build the cash cushion. Let the market cool. It's not sexy, but it's smart. What if the money runs out? Can you go back to work? Can you downsize? Can you move to a cheaper state? Can you live with your kids? I didn't have a plan B. I thought the math was enough. It wasn't. I still open the blue folder every morning. It's become a ritual, a penance. Inside, there's a photo I keep tucked behind the bank statements. It's from the retirement party in 2019. I'm holding the gold-plated wrench, grinning like an idiot. Linda's next to me, smiling in her blue dress. The banner behind us says, "Happy retirement, Tom." We look so sure, so confident. I don't hate that version of myself, but I don't recognize him either. That man thought he had it figured out. He thought the math was enough. He thought following the rules would keep him safe. He was wrong. The 4% rule didn't trick me. I tricked myself. I wanted a simple answer to a complicated problem. I wanted to believe that a single number, a single percentage, could protect me from life. It can't. Numbers don't account for bad luck. They don't account for timing. They don't account for the universe deciding to punch you in the face the moment you let your guard down. I'm not broke. Not yet. But I'm one medical emergency away, one car accident, one bad year, and I'm angry. I'm angry at the articles that made it sound so simple. I'm angry at the financial industry that sells certainty when there is none. I'm angry at myself for believing them. But mostly I'm angry that I can't go back. I can't undo the withdrawals I made during the crash. I can't rebuild the shares I sold. I can't get the house back. All I can do is sit here in this apartment that smells like curry and tell you what I learned too late. If you're reading this and you're still working, still planning, still years away from that blue folder on your counter, listen to me. Question everything. Test every assumption. Build margins into your margins. Because the 4% rule is just a rule, and rules break. I'm proof.